Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thanks. Yourself? Oops, okay. Okay. Now we're in live stream voice. I did not know you could just click and drag. That is so convenient.
Wow, that was so much fun to watch. Thank you so much for streaming this and for taking the time to play our game. It meant a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this. This is a really like fun visual trick. I gotta know more about how you put this together. But let's start first things first. So proper introductions. This game whoop, was made by the two of you. So Matt Bates
Yep,
and Jacob. Sorry, how do you
yep.
say your last name?
Kreiner.
Kreiner. Okay, it is say how it sounds. Good, or how it's spelled. Um,
Yeah, this
cool.
is our little game, Spotsylvania. Unnamed until the final day. Spotsylvania, fun fact, is the name of the place we grew up together in. But figured it has the word spot in it, so that was good enough. um, but yeah, we worked on this for the whole week, and man, it's so gratifying to see you play it and enjoy it. It means so much to us.
I'm really glad.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, can you talk a little bit about your respective backgrounds and what your roles on the project were? I guess we'll start with Matt.
Yeah, we're both a little overqualified, to be honest. Neither of us have done professional game development, but we've both been professional developers for a long time. Um, so, but this I saw as what I wanted to get out of this project was to learn compute shaders and to learn GPU instancing. And it was really cool to see, like, right in the first stage, you were like, these are billboarded particles. Like, you can run millions of these things. And it was like, yes, that's exactly what I was going for. So, but that was kind of what I was trying to get out of it.
Yeah, so Matt did a lot of the shader stuff. I'm not like really comfortable with that at all. So he did the major functionality of the dots. I kind of just focus more on some of the mechanics, like the moving platforms. At one point, we also had like some buttons in there, but they didn't really fit the theme too well, so we ended up taking those out. But I also did the sound effects and the music, and some of the levels as well.
Which was really great. The volume came across pretty quiet on stream, but I hope you could hear it. That bubble sound effect in the music, man, like it fits the theme perfectly. I really love that part.
Yeah, I do have the like music and sound effects tuned down just so that it's not competing with any voice, especially like now as I'm talking to the both of you. I didn't want it. I want our voices to be coming through like loud and clear. So another reason why
Makes
people
sense.
should try the game for themselves.
And most games I've played so far don't have a volume slider, and they're freaking loud, so I totally understand.
Yeah. So I guess let's talk a little bit about what was the inspiration behind this game.
So I'm sure a lot of the people, I guess there's only 3 people other than us that are listening to this. So I'm sure you other 3 people had the same experience we did on day 1, which is we sat down and we brainstormed for like 6 hours trying to come up with a game idea. And we went through probably half a dozen things. And then Jacob was like, there's this cool story that I really like from this game called Scanner Sombra. Like, and so he started showing us Scanner Sombra, and instantly, so that's where we got this dot effect from. This is not unique. We didn't come up with this. This is kind of a clone of Scanner Sombra, but it's unique enough that I think we put enough of our own spin on it, and we changed the style of the game significantly, such that it's not a clone. Like the mechanic is a clone, but the game is not a clone. But by the time he had brought that up, we had already been discussing for like 12 hours. We had already bought this big bundle of assets off of the Humble Bundle store. And that's where this room comes into play. Like, we had a couch, we had a snowmobile, we had a bed model, and we had somehow stumbled into this game idea that doesn't involve showing any models at all. So, in an effort to make use of the purchase that we made, We just spammed a bunch of objects in here. And honestly, this is my favorite room. Well, this is probably my second favorite to the auditorium and making that music play when you put the dots on the people. But that there's such an inspiration just to have all these objects to play with.
Yeah, it's really fun to try to like piece together what everything is. Like, some of them are a little harder to recognize than others, just based on their profile.
Like that's a USB stick you're looking at now. You'd
Okay,
never guess.
and this looks like some sort of like small, maybe Japanese style lantern.
It's a pedestal with a diamond on top. That came from like a bank robbery asset pack.
Well, that's the great thing is that it's all unified within the context of the dot aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're very happy with how it came out. This was a really fun project to work on.
All right, nice. Um, so I guess we'll move on to our next question then, unless anyone else in chat has any questions that they would like to ask as well. But what was your development process like for the game?
Yeah, it was well, I was unemployed during the game jam. I am employed as of tomorrow, but during the game jam I was unemployed and man, it was a whirlwind. Kind of woke up, worked on the game for 16 hours, went to bed, did that for 7 days straight. So it was kind of nuts. Um, we learned a lot about how freaking crazy it is to resolve Git merges in Unity. When
Yeah,
poor
that's
Jacob
true.
would get on after his workday and then like do a pull, and then I had like touched every single object in the scene, everything went to hell. Uh,
Oh my gosh, yeah, that can be a real pain.
Yeah, merging the code was not that big of a deal, but resolving scene conflicts was pretty rough. I
So,
think
oh, yeah, sorry. For go ahead.
I actually forgot what I was gonna say. Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry about that.
yeah, I guess our development process is it's pretty straightforward because we've been programming together for 16 years or so. Around maybe that's a little too high, maybe 14 years.
Still though.
Of
Yeah,
course, never in a professional capacity, but we definitely jive together. So there was very little conflict for us to work through.
yeah, we mostly just, kind of come up with an idea, or we're like, oh, I've got something I can surprise you with, and then, we'll add a new mechanic, and then, we kind of just try to make some content with it once it's, pushed into the repository.
Hmm.
Yeah. We've got a viewer, Hessic02 is asking about what were the inspirations for the little like decals on the walls, like the tic tac toe and such.
Yeah, that was that was pretty straightforward. I just thought it would look nice and it would occupy space, to be honest. Because when we originally did these levels, uh, there was a lot of visible geometry, which like with the default lit shader from Unity, and it looked really bad. Um, and we were doing a playtest. I think it was on the Thursday. So this was just that's when Elden Ring came out. So that's when we ended the game jam. But it was pretty close to the end of the game jam. And Jacob says like it just doesn't look good. He says we would never release a game like this with the Unity lit shader, just a bunch of flat assets everywhere. Um, so then we decided to like remove all of the shaders, and then by that time you just have these big empty voids. And I had already put in a couple like small decorations, but once we did that, like I went overboard. And one thing you'll notice right here, there is a hint on the wall. So we
Yeah.
consider this like a necessary feature. Um, there's only two of these in the whole game, but if
Hmm.
you end up really getting stuck, you can find like written explanations or these small three-word hints on how to solve the puzzle, which is really necessary. We fine-tuned these first two levels. We went through probably 3 or 4 revisions getting them right, and I still don't think they're perfectly right. You did phenomenally well. You came into this game clearly as a developer doing analysis, somebody who's like analyzed games before, and you understood the mechanics immediately. But that's an exception. Like nobody who did playtests, we probably did 10 playtests over the week. Nobody who did playtests got it that fast. It took everybody like at least 5 minutes in the first room. So the amount of tweaking we had to do, I think it's in a good state now. I think it's really hard to accidentally solve the first 2 puzzles. Because if you do accidentally solve the first 2 puzzles, you're really screwed going into the third and the fourth one. You'll have a really bad time.
You don't develop the intuition for how it's supposed to work.
Right. You're never gonna like accidentally clean that whole pillar without left clicking one time.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna end up with a much more sparse because having played through the game, I just figured I'd kind of idly go through it a second time while we were having our conversation here. But I'm gonna end up with a much more sparse world because I'm not firing quite as many bubbles. So, do you have a rough sense? By the way, you mentioned that this is done with a compute shader. So, how many of these little billboards can the game like comfortably support?
Yeah, so on my computer, it comfortably handles 4 million roundabout before I start seeing any lag at all. The exception is if you spray in the same spot. I don't know what causes this. You
Huh.
seem to be familiar with instancing and stuff, so maybe you'd know. But if you have a bunch of overlapping triangles, that's when you start seeing lag, and you can see that with as low as like 10,000 overlapping triangles.
Interesting.
Um, but one of the main sources of lag originally was the movement of these things. Like when you click, they spray out of the gun and they animate, across from your gun towards the target.
Right.
That was originally all done on the CPU, and that was our main source of lag. Because every frame you're copying like megabytes of data to the GPU buffers. So when we eventually switched it to compute shaders, and then we just store like a single vector 3 position, a single vector 3 target, and then like a uniform float for speed, then you just, call the compute shader once, and the GPU, it can churn through data that it already has insanely fast. The problem is just getting data to the GPU that's the problem. So once we solve that bottleneck, everything seems to go lightning fast.
That's awesome. I mean, so I guess let's sort of keep rolling on that. Do you have any other useful shortcuts or clever hacks for the Unity engine, or maybe to do with using compute shaders that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I wish I did. I love them now. This is the first time I've written compute shaders, or done GPU instancing ever, and I guess I'd just recommend to do it. It was unbelievably intimidating when I started. If you're not familiar with it, none of it'll make sense. Debugging shaders is a huge pain in the ass. But you just spend a couple days banging your head against the desk, asking people questions, and eventually you get through it. And when you do, you can do some really powerful stuff.
Yeah, are you at all familiar with Sebastian Lang's channel, Coding Adventures?
Mm-mm.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I am. He does some cool stuff. I've seen that recent one he's done with the little plane that flies around the
Yeah,
world that he like generates like the geometry based on like actual like information about the world. It was really cool to watch.
That sounds nuts. I'll have to check. What's the name of this guy?
so it's Sebastian Lang's channel. I'll pull it up. And it's Coding Adventures is the series that he does. But I don't know if you Google Coding Adventures. Yeah, you do. You do get it. This is the channel for anyone. Just pull that over onto the main screen here. So Coding Adventures by Sebastian. I'm saying the name wrong. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's like lag. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, this is the channel. I'll post it into the chat for anyone who would like to check it out. It's really cool, and if you just want to see something that is visually awesome, check out his video on simulating ant and slime mold stuff. I think there's a fair bit of this that is actually done with GPU, compute shaders and the like. There are just some amazing visualizations that end up forming as a result of these experiments. So anyway,
Wow,
that's
that's
a little
amazing.
tease of it, but I won't give the rest away. You got to watch it yourself.
That's good. And to point out that 3 blue, 1 brown video on the right side of your screen too.
Yeah.
I definitely had to watch plenty of 3 blue, 1 brown linear algebra videos in order to get these compute shaders working as I wanted. So
Yeah, I think it's really cool to be able to pull from all these different sources, and education and resources are just so readily available nowadays that you can really just like sit down with some determination, some idea of what you want to create, and with the right search terms, eventually find your way to like, oh, okay, this is how I put that together.
Yeah, and there's
All
nothing more
right.
fun.
So, do you have any plans for the game going forward?
We do like it. We like it a lot. We think there's a lot of potential. Um, and of course, given infinite time, yeah, we'd like to release a game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's plenty to be done, though, plenty of work, and we both have full-time jobs. At least we do now. Like
Right.
I said, I didn't when we worked on it, but um, so we'll see. We'll see if we end up being inspired enough. Maybe if enough people are interested or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would definitely be down to work on it more as well. But yeah, it's as Matt said. Uh, all really just depends on how much time we have. I mean, we're both huge video game enthusiasts, so it's and this is the first game jam we've done together. So it was actually pretty tough to balance time between making games and playing games.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
we'll see how our motivation is down the road in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. So, can you talk a little bit more about what you were working on the game?
And that's me, Jacob.
Oh, yes. Sorry, Jacob. Yes.
Yeah. So primarily, I did the sound. There were a couple things other than that I did. I made these floating platform levels, and then the other level with the big cube where you have to wash the three sides of it. Um, most of the code, given the intense shader stuff going on, was done by Matt. But I tried my best to add on to that to make new mechanics that I thought could be interesting for little puzzle levels. Due to the time constraint, there were only a few of those that really made it in. I did an initial implementation of uh, the moving dots, although it was not very performant. Matt was
Oh,
able
you don't have
to
to qualify that. You don't have to qualify
Matt was
that.
able to brilliantly optimize that via the compute shaders.
They're
Um,
all the implementations were slow and bad at the beginning. So
um, yeah, I didn't really. Uh, Most of well, actually, all of the stuff that you described as cute, the models and the artwork was also done by Matt. Um, but I did a little generic path following implementation for this platform that you're on here. So just kind of making quality of life stuff for designing the levels. So like obviously hard coding in a path for a platform to follow is super annoying. So this one's really cool where you can there's just like a list of transforms that you can just drag and drop different ones into. So I was really happy with that.
Yeah, that's
and,
excellent to
and
have
one thing I
a
want to point out
system
with
like
this
that.
too. One thing I want to point out is with a project like this, we definitely deleted more code than we wrote. So at the end of it, it can feel hard to look back and like you know see the small amount of lines because this whole thing, it's probably 1,000 lines of code. It's really not that big. But we wrote 4,000 lines of code, 5,000 lines of code, and just deleted 80% of it when we decided it wasn't valuable. Or when we decided it wasn't going into the end product. But that doesn't mean it wasn't valuable. The end
Hmm.
product only exists because of all that stuff we did in the middle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, we had these like interactable elements as well, like buttons and stuff, but um, we didn't really have the means immediately to, because our decision to remove all of the actual like visible geometry came like pretty late into the project. So like initially, you had made a comment about that moving wall there in the one puzzle with where you have to clean the three sides of the cube.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, we had like a little button that you go up and press, and then that brings the wall down. Um, but when we removed the geometry, that kind of became obsolete for a little while. So yeah, that part didn't end up making it in. But I think that given more time, we definitely want to add more interactions. Stuff that you can interact with beyond just left clicking and right clicking. And also, one of the things we were thinking about was, you know, uh, as Matt mentioned, you solved these puzzles brilliantly, and had a real analytical sense about what was going on. But we actually had quite a few people struggling on some of the puzzles, so I think that we'd like to have like almost like a Portal-esque mechanic eventually, with boxes. You know how there's the little cubes in Portal. But like one thought that I had was like, these little objects that you make tangible or intangible by adding and removing dots. People have struggled with. So like having just like some room with like a that you could see like like a box falling onto one of these tangible objects, and then having like some like sprayer and cleaner gun that's not attached to the player, that's spraying it and cleaning it, and then you see that like the cube falls through it. I think could be like a really good way to introduce that mechanic, without having too much confusion. At one point I saw um, you had cleaned off in the first puzzle the wall entirely, and you were like, "Oh, I think I missed some dots," but like you already had the ability to walk through it. But the mechanic, it's not quite clear from our introduction. I don't think what is the point where you can walk through it or not. So I think we definitely have some ideas that we could take to try to help players figure out what exactly is going on there.
I think if there was some sort of pronounced, like it changes color, but maybe if it like flashed or became like flashed and then faded, the color change was just surprisingly subtle, or at least it was subtle enough that I managed to miss it in that first instance, what you're describing. And yeah, I guess that there's kind of like an unavoidable sense that as a game designer myself, I kind of look for like, okay, what is this trying to teach me right now? And that doesn't always work because not everyone making a game is necessarily thinking along those lines. But I guess it was like once you sort of catch on to the fact that like, yes, this game is actually teaching you how to play it, then you can kind of pick up on, okay, so then I've learned this mechanic, I need to use it in this sense, and just sort of go through logically what based on what I know and what maybe like leap of logic I need to make to solve the next thing. um but oh, and then one other thing I wanted to mention, if you are considering making a post jam version of this, but it's a question of like, well, to what end, and if you're both busy with full-time jobs, then is it going to be worth the time that you put into it? You could always make a sale on itch.io to say like, you don't have to even offer a discounted price, but you could just say like, hey, if people contribute like some amount of money, like $500, then we'll release a 1.1 version of the game with these features added to it or something like that.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Kind of getting some goals to kind of incentivize us further to work on it.
Yeah, that's a good little 4-hour work week tip, right? Of give people a button they can click to buy the product before you're ready to sell it, and then just say like, "Sorry, it's not ready," and just count the number of people ready to buy it as a way to gauge interest.
Well,
I'd definitely be
I
more comfortable doing that than like actually collecting money from people and making some sort of a commitment, because that would be, I'd feel real bad if we ended up not doing it.
I know what you mean. I guess in my sense, I think that you could already like based on what you already have here, I think you could absolutely offer this as a like pay what you want kind of experience. Um, like for instance, what I did with my own game, Worlds Within Worlds, the entire game is available to play for free in browser. And then if you want to download the exe, then you can pay $5 to get that, and then that $5 is eventually going to add up to a new version of the game with World 6 added on. So that's sort of what I was suggesting is like if that made sense as a monetization model for you for this game.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had honestly never considered it. I'll have to look more at your game and see how well it's worked for you. That's interesting.
Well, at this point, I haven't made the public sales figures of the game yet, so I don't know if people are really catching on to the fact that it's like, well, I'm not going to pay for it, but maybe someone else will. It's like, well, no one's paying for it, so I don't know if that's it's an experiment still at this point to see whether that is a monetization model that is going to make any sense long term. But yeah, as more people find out about the game, maybe it'll kind of catch on. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
makes sense.
what I
And
really
even
want to get
like,
across. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say like even Factorio when it originally came out was like $4 or something, or $5. And now it's like one of the highest grossing games on Steam, or maybe not highest grossing, but highest sales numbers. And it costs maybe $30, $20 or something now. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe Terraria did the same thing, but definitely just having super small prices, which is just like minimizing the barrier. Like the barrier at that point is pulling out your credit card. Um, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, but I do want to sort of say that, like, based on what you've already got here, this is a substantial enough experience that I don't think you should be afraid to offer this as a, like, suggested $2, $3 donation for the experience that you already have. Um, you can't quite do the same thing that I'm doing because I don't think this is going to run in a web browser happily.
Yeah,
No,
I won't.
I wanted it to so bad, but no, these compute shaders and stuff are just not supported in WebGL.
No.
This is something that's new to me as of like 4 days ago. But yeah, like there's just no support at all for compute shaders in WebGL. So, and we rely on them 100%.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap things up unless anyone else in chat has anything they'd like to ask. But just in the meantime, where can people find you on social media? And do you have any other projects you'd like to plug?
I, I don't have social media. I don't
That's
have a
fine.
place to find me. Message me on Discord or something. You've seen my name.
Fair enough. Um, Jacob? Oh, hello.
Did you mute yourself?
Did I? Jacob?
We might have lost him.
Hmm. All right. Well, I'm going to make sure to post a link here to. Um, oh, heck! I guess this is the only game that you've made, huh? On itch.io?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's why I don't have a link to your profile, but there we go.
Yep. Should
Toy
be easy to
Dragon.
find.
Oh, okay, there we go. There's Jacob.
Yeah. You want to plug your Insta or something, Jacob?
My HIO is empty. That's all right. You can just have Matt's.
Well, anywhere else? Or at least okay. Um, you mentioned that you're both working. I don't know if you can say where it is that you're working, but if you want to make mention of like what future projects you're working on and where people can keep an eye out for stuff that you're making?
Um, yeah, I guess I could link my GitHub, although I really don't have a lot of complete projects really. This is probably the furthest that I've ever made it with a project. I've done a few couple other game jams, but let me see if it's actually if the old projects are on there. Sorry, just give me one moment.
Oh, take your time. That's fine. It seems like we lost Matt though.
He may have been having internet issues.
Matt, you back with us?
Hey, yeah.
But yeah,
Discord
I
there for a
just
second there.
I just mentioned to Jacob, and I'll ask the same of you. Like, if you can say where it is that you're working, and if you want to share that, so people know to keep an eye out for something that you are working on in future.
Sure.
Uh,
Everybody go to facebook.com and check that out. This new hot startup.
Oh wow, is it? I've never heard of the Facebook before.
yeah, I work for Amazon Web Services. Unfortunately, all of the things that I'm working on will be internally facing, so most people probably won't be able to see the work that I'm contributing to.
All right. Well, thank you so much for both joining me for the interview today. And I would love it if you guys do have the opportunity to work on this or some other jam project because, yeah, this was really pretty. And I'd love to see what else you end up making. So